Welcome to the Personal Brand Era podcast. I'm your host, Ella Ray, and I'm excited to talk to Helen Prince today. She's a mindset coach helping female coaches overcome self-doubt, fear of judgment, and overwhelm while empowering them to confidently express themselves, create deeper connections, and make a meaningful impact in their coaching businesses through decisive action, intuition-guided growth, and feeling comfortable standing out in the crowd. And I love that particularly. Hey, Helen, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So, how did you get into mindset coaching specifically?
It started when I had quite a good childhood, Ella. I've got nothing to complain about, yet I still had this crazy, insane shyness. I couldn't look people in the eye. I always stayed behind the scenes. I never wanted to stand out. I never wanted to be up front. And I cruised along in life quite fine. You can get along fine in life doing all of that. And then when I had kids, because I'd been so cruisy and I had kids and they pushed every single button I didn't even know I had, and it was a complete opposite. I've gone from this really calm, whatever person into this really angry person. And I didn't like it. And I tried all these things, and I tried getting into network marketing and doing all this stuff. And because I knew the problem was with me, I spent a lot of time in blame mode. Don't worry. There was a lot of time where it's like, well, if you just did this, and to my husband, and if the kids just did this, meanwhile, they're under 3 years old, but if they just did what they were meant to do and you did there was a lot of finger pointing. And one day I woke up and I hated who I'd become. I didn't like the mum I was. It wasn't the picture of the mum that I thought I would wanted to be. And that sort of got me searching for something. And yeah, I didn't want to keep going down that path and breaking my children, while they were in such that young developmental stage. So they really were the catalyst for me to want to change and do something different.
I can relate so much to that. Like, I experienced the same thing. Like, before I had kids, I was like calm, peaceful. Nothing could get me out of my peace zone, so to speak. I could get along with everyone, even
Yeah.
kids. I love kids so much.
Yeah.
Still do. But then, just like you said, like all the buttons that they tend to push, like I didn't even know I had those. Just like for you, like it reminds me so much of all the situations that I've been in. And how would someone actually recognize negative beliefs or a poor mindset in specific areas of their lives? Because most people are not aware until, I believe, those buttons are pushed.
Well, that's exactly right, because these things are in there. It's like they're programmed in there, but you're not aware of them until you're aware of them. It doesn't mean they didn't exist before. And we'll probably talk about epigenetics later, but that's what the whole epigenetic thing is, that you're coming in already pre-programmed with certain beliefs and stresses and traumas, and they sit there dormant until the right time to get activated, so to speak. It's like when you're a baby, you're not aware that you've got hands and feet until you're, I don't know, a few months old. Doesn't mean they didn't exist before then. You only just became aware of them at that certain point. And that's what happens as you go along in life as well. You cannot be aware of stuff. And it's more of, I guess it's noticing patterns more than, do I have a limiting belief, or am I, labeling it something? Because a lot of people don't sort of go around immediately thinking, oh, I'm not good enough. All right. That will get there eventually, because they will go searching and then eventually they'll put this label onto it. But it's more of a noticing that month after month, or week after week, or year after year, these same patterns keep happening. And it can be in your personal life, in your love life, in your money, in your everything, every area of your life. You'll notice that there are these recurring patterns. And I guess it's going to be different for everybody, but if they notice, if you're at a point in life where you go, you know what, I really don't like where I'm at, that's when I think you can sit back and be a little bit retrospective and look and go, oh yeah, this has happened. Because this is my second marriage as well. And when I turned into this crazy, angry mum, it wasn't until that moment where I've woken up and gone, oh, hang on a minute, this is not good. This is heading down the path of, if I keep doing what I'm doing, I'm heading down for divorce number 2. And it wasn't until then that I sat back and gone, oh, I did that in my first marriage. I just walk away. That's how I do it. I process it. And I came home one day and I said to him, this isn't working. I want a divorce. And he's just gone, what just happened? Because it came from nowhere. And if I look back on all my previous relationships, that's what I would do. I would get to a point where, nah, this isn't working for me. And I would internally process it all and then go, see you later, fella. And at that moment, though, when I'd had kids, it's like, well, hang on a minute. I actually kind of like this guy and I really do like these children, and I can't just walk away because it's not just 2 people now. There's 5 people involved, and I don't want to do that to my kids. So even though I'd spent, because I didn't have kids until much later in life, so I'd spent a good 30 odd years in this pattern that I was completely oblivious to. So it's when you get to that point and you can sort of sit back and go, oh yeah, actually I do that. Oh yeah, actually every month I do turn into some crazy person. Oh yeah, when that happens, I do happen to do that. And that's when you can see that, right, something needs to change. And you can then go and find that thing that you want to do to make those changes.
That makes me remember, just recently I was watching a documentary about population decline, and that we are actually on the brink of maybe even human extinction because we are not having enough kids. And when I listen to you telling me that women tend to have children quite late these days, like in their 30s or even 40s, right? They want to have the career first, they want to have the money right, they are waiting for the perfect moment, they are waiting for the perfect partner, and it never happens really. And they realize that quite late, that even in their 40s, there's never the perfect time, there's never the perfect partner, they never have the financial perfect, most people, right? It's difficult to get to that perfect moment. And something else also happens, that in your 40s, especially in the Western countries nowadays, women tend to be more infertile. So they realize that, oh my God, I waited for way too long. Like 80% of women who have no children are involuntarily infertile, so to speak. They're involuntarily not being a mom. So this is not by choice, because they have waited too long, right? And now they cannot have kids. Now they cannot have the type of family that they always have been dreaming of. So if we think about those negative mindset beliefs that we have, and those triggers that we meet first when we actually have kids, not even with our partners, because as you said, we can leave them anytime. But the real triggers, like the depth of the sea of the most negative beliefs that you have, you will meet them first when you have kids. So I would make a bold statement now or even a recommendation to have kids earlier in life and prioritize family, and take out those 10 years maybe and have kids in your 20s, like late 20s, and not in your 30s. Like, that is so much better, not only for the woman itself, for the mother itself, because your body is healthy. You are much more stress resistant, right? You are not on the verge of menopause or perimenopause, right? When you are in your 40s, like, your whole body changes. How do you expect to be a good mom if you are hormonally all over the place? Like, in your 20s, that's the best time. Like, and I know I will get a lot of hate comments for this, for saying that, because that's so, I don't know, not something that in Western countries is promoted. But
I think too,
Biologically
though,
speaking,
that,
it is the best way.
yeah. And I think too, because women, we've got so many opportunities now that we can do things. We want everything. And we think, right or wrong, we think that it has to be one or the other. There can't be both. So that in itself is a limiting mindset, because you can have it all. You can, when you don't have the same patterns and programs running in the background that tell you it's going to be hard, it's going to be stressful, you're never going to have time. Because my experience with my children now is the complete opposite. I've got 3 teenagers and they're amazing. We don't have that, I don't know, they haven't gone through that teenage years. And my daughter, she's 17, so it should have happened by now. Do you know what I mean? But I think because of the work that I did beforehand has sort of set this up. So women can have it all. And if you believe you can't, then that's a limiting mindset. Because if you want it, that's all that matters. It's not so much what you believe, because that'll be whatever it is. But if you want this, there is absolutely a way to get that. And whatever this is, whatever that looks like for you, whether it is a family, whether it is being a mum and a businesswoman, whether it doesn't even matter what that combination is, whatever it is that you want, you can actually have it.
I totally agree. And it is not like you say, just excluding one or the other, but really going into a different mindset, asking it a different type of question. How can I have it all?
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
like I can't have it all. Like you are eliminating all options from the beginning if you say I can't have it all. I cannot have it
That's right.
all now because my finances are not right, the partner is not right, or at least our relationship is difficult. It's tough. We need to go to heal ourselves from all our traumas first. But the truth is, you will not heal all your traumas unless you have kids. And that's the hard truth, I believe, at least. Because how can you heal yourself from something that you don't even know you have? And this is only
Yes.
revealed by a human being that is so vulnerable, that is so helpless, that commands every cell in your body to be present. Your partner will not even demand that from you, even if it's a narcissist. Like, they cannot demand this from you because they are not a baby. They are grown adults, right? And they will demand only so much from you. But a baby demands every cell of your body to be present, to be nurturing, to be loving. And so
Yeah.
that's a challenge. And my feeling and my impression is that many women don't even want that anymore. They don't want to be challenged. They don't want to grow. They just want to enjoy life. And that's a big mistake because many, many women regret that to the deepest of their core, and they will never admit that if they go childless, that they will regret it and they feel utter pain in their later life 50s, 40s, when they realize they could have had that if they were a little bit braver and made the conscious decision to answer that question, how can I have it all? And actually go into that type of space.
Yeah,
And
because the
that's
answer will always come. And you're so right. It is in the questions that you ask. And when we go into the why is a very take you down a deep, dark rabbit hole, and you will feel even more powerless than when you started. But the whole, what needs to happen? How can this happen? What do I need to do to make this happen? Those are more open questions, and you don't have to know the answer. That was the sort of questions that I was asking when I was going through all of my stuckness and, turning into this angry person. And I tried lots and lots of different things to be able to move past all of that, to resolve it. And nothing that I did seemed to work long term. I would have this very, very short term relief. And, when I had 3 kids under 5, and also working part-time and also doing everything that you're supposed to do as a mum and cook and clean and all of that sort of stuff. So have to be continuously working on myself as well, and to be doing affirmations. Have you ever tried to do an affirmation when you are so angry because there are socks on the ground, this irrational anger that you get, and then you sit there and going, I'm grateful for my life. I love my family. It doesn't work because it's just empty words, because the energy you're sending out is the complete opposite. So that sort of stuff, it wasn't working for me. And even all the other processes that I'd learned, they were very, very temporary. So I found myself saying constantly, there has to be a better way. There has to be a better way. And that's all I kept saying, because this is not working. There has to be another way. There just has to. And then, you leave it nice and open like that, and your questions are always answered.
And I love in what direction you went from here when you said there has to be a better way. And I'm enormously curious about what Creatrix is. Did I pronounce it correctly?
You did. Yeah.
Okay, so what is it and how did you come to that type of solution?
From that question. Well, it wasn't even a question. It was just a statement that there has to be a better way. I don't have time to keep working on myself. Every time I do these processes, I feel great. And then it's like I lift myself up here and then I fall down further. And then I'm looking at all these other people who are going, oh, my life's so great. And I do this and I do that. It's like, well, I did that. And no, I feel worse because now I'm more of a failure. You can do it. I can't do it. Therefore, something's wrong with me. So I needed to stop doing it because it was actually making me feel worse than better. And by just, having that thought, there has to be a way, what actually happened, because I started out as a law of attraction life coach, and I love the law of attraction. And I still, to this day, I listen to Abraham all the time. I love it. I love it. And when you don't have that, how I'm not sure if you listen to Abraham or not, but how they always talk about, don't focus on what you don't want, focus on what you do want. And it's so hard to do that. But now, because of Creatrix, it's easy to do that. It's easy to really shift your mindset. So I was working part-time, and I was also trying to get my coaching business off the ground. But because I was so blocked still, I still had so much self-doubt. I still didn't believe I could do it. I still couldn't look people in the eye. I couldn't tell someone what I did because, if I did that, she might want to work with me. And if she wants to work with me, then I have to ask her for money. And then she's going to expect something from me. And then I can't deliver what I'm going to say. And then just, I'd go into this big tailspin. It's like, so it was easier to just not say anything. So anyway, one day my husband said to me, well, it's probably about time you got a real job, hey? And I've just gone, oh, mate, no. That was like waving a red flag in front of the bull. So I've got online and it's like, I'm going to show you, mate. And I'm looking jobs for coaches. And that's when I found Marilyn Shermer. And she is the lady who created Creatrix. And as soon as I spoke to her, it was like, oh, this is exactly what I've been looking for. So what it is, Creatrix is a process that Marilyn Shermer created, but it's based on the female design. So if you go back, and this is what she did, she spent tens of thousands of hours researching and going down rabbit holes and joining dots and, asking the questions, well, how come doctors aren't talking to the endocrinologists and who aren't talking to the psychologists? They're all sort of very separate. And when you go back and look at the beginning, where everything came from when it comes to personal development, it all came from that male perspective. And, that's just the way it was. 100 odd years ago, only men were allowed to do science and medicine. It just is what it is. So because of that, though, it's come from the perspective of the male brain. Now, we know men and women's brains are different, right? We're so different, it's not even funny. You can't fathom what you can't fathom. A man can understand in theory how hormones work. They cannot understand how you can feel 50 different emotions in the space of 5 minutes. And, this is why they would do things like, what would they do? They said that women had hysteria because they were being too emotional, all right? So they would lock us away. They would do all these things, all these horrendous things, because you can't fathom what you can't fathom. So because everything has come from that male perspective, the male brain it's very sort of linear and, this happens, this happens, this happens. Whereas a woman's brain is very like this.
Yeah.
This happens and affects this and affects this and affects this. And it's all this mishmash. So Creatrix has been designed from a female perspective, first of all. Smaz is obviously a woman. It's taking into account our hormones, epigenetics, the way our brain is wired, the way we perceive things is different. We can look at something and see it as one thing and a man can see it completely different. We misinterpret things because we are inferential. We put meaning where there is none. If a guy says, "Oh, geez, it's hot," his mate might go, "Yeah, it is, isn't it?" But the woman sitting in there, we go, "Oh, does he want me to turn the fan on? Maybe I should get up and open a window. Maybe I should do something." And then depending on the day, we might go, "Well, he can get up and open it. Why doesn't he? You're a lazy bastard. Why do I have to do everything?" And we get our knickers in a knot and he's just going, "What? I just said it was hot." So there's this miscommunication and this misinterpretation because we are so different. So Creatrix is designed to address how we are, how we operate, how we are programmed. And because it's so purposely built, it works really fast and it's irreversible. It's been 2016, October 2006, no, September 2016 is when I first experienced Creatrix. So that's, I don't know, what is that, 7 years now? So the things that I did 7 years ago, I've never had to revisit. I don't have to keep coping and managing. I don't have to keep strategizing. I don't have to keep finding ways to not be triggered because I'm not triggered. Does that even make sense? It's like we've got these automatic responses, right? That whenever something happens, it's like this record gets put on and in a split second, we're down the path and we're ranting and raving, we're carrying on. What Creatrix does, it essentially, instead of you playing that same old record, now you've got a new record and you don't get triggered in the same way. I had this beautiful lady, she was really well respected in her field. She had what a lot of women have is this imposter syndrome, right? So all these people would come to her and say, can you help me with this person and train this person and do this and do that because you're amazing. And she would go, yeah, sure, whatever. In her mind, she's going, no, I'm not that good. If they only knew that I'm not as good as they think I am, I'm going to get caught out. They're going to find out. I can't do this anymore. And anyway, we did Creatrix with her around her fear. And because it changes everything all at once, it changes all those automatic responses. Unless you are very, very aware, you're not even going to recognize it. Because I caught up with her a week afterwards and I said, so tell me, what has changed? What have you noticed is different? And she said, oh, Helen, I don't think it worked. Nothing's really different. I said, okay, that's fine. Tell me about, have you received any emails from people wanting you to train and do all that sort of stuff? And she's going, oh yeah, I've had a heap come in and I've just done them. And I've looked at her and I've said, isn't that a little bit different to how you used to react? And she's just gone, oh my God, yeah. Because it became her new automatic response. She didn't get triggered in the moment. It's the same as if you ran out of milk. It's not, oh my God, I've run out of milk. It's, oh, I've run out of milk. I'll go to the shop and I'll get milk. So that became with, oh, an email came in. I can do that. I'll just do it. And this is what is so, I guess, unfathomable for a lot of people to grasp, because we're conditioned to think that change is slow, change takes a long time. You have to constantly keep working on yourself. And yes, you do, because when you grow, there's always going to be something new, but you shouldn't have to keep working on the same stuff. Does that make sense? Learn
Mhm.
that, get on with life. Step up, do these things that you've never would have done before because all of these fears stopped you from even trying. Now you're up on this level, and up here, oh, I didn't realize I had feet, sort of thing, because I had to be here to know. So that's your next level of growth. It's growing, not revising the same thing and then going up and down and up and down and up and down. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And I would love to know what the process would be if, and you can take a different example if you want, a fictitious one or a real one that you had with a client. Like if someone is interested in working with you and they are very curious about how Creatrix actually works, and she comes with a very particular problem to you. Let's say it's a
Mm-hmm.
professional, let's say it's a female coach, because that's a whole bunch of listeners who will be watching this interview. And she comes with a very specific pain point. Let's take one of the main pain points that you encounter in your clients. What is the process that you take her through to actually to replace her old mindset and her reactions that she used to show into that new being that is so elevated?
Yep. So it's essentially, and this is another thing that's very different with Creatrix, is that we don't have to go into your story. I don't have to say, so Ella, tell me about, what's going on with you. I will ask you that. I do need to know something. I need to know, what's going on with you. What's the problem that you keep seeing is a recurring problem for you? And I'll get you to tell me some information, but I don't need to know why. Why do you feel like that? Why do you think that happened? Or, well, what can you do about that? Or any of those sorts of things. Because at the end of the day, one soul can't heal another soul. We could have very, very similar journeys. Okay. You could have 20 women in the room. They will all have maybe similar journeys, maybe completely different journeys. It doesn't even matter. I will guarantee you that 9 out of 10 of them, maybe even 10 out of 10, if there's someone in there who hasn't had Creatrix, they will feel not good enough, or they will not trust themselves, or they will have some sort of self-doubt, or they will be scared of succeeding or scared of failing, or they'll be afraid of being judged. We're not as unique as we think we are. Our lives are unique, yes, but when you come down to the very core essence of what we want and what we're afraid of, those things are not unique. So we don't have to go in and understand, because, if I try and understand and try and figure it out with you here consciously, that's just advice based on my beliefs and my experiences, which may not necessarily be what you need. So essentially what Creatrix does is that I've got this set of, let's just call them issues, for want of a better word, that we will go through, and because they are the universal blocks that women have. A woman in business and a woman in a relationship or a mum, they will all have some form of not being good enough, or being judged, or being criticized, or whatever it is. There'll be something around not feeling safe, there'll be things around not trusting. So those are the things that I would work on with her. And you don't have to go into that story, because the more we try and figure it out, the more that we tell our story, the more we feel the emotion, the harder it is to get rid of it, because it causes this connection in your brain when you relive the emotion and the event. And then this is why you see a lot of women who it's like, I don't want to talk about my story anymore, because I've done that and it's painful and it makes me feel like shit, and I don't want to do that. So thank you very much. I'm not even going to tell you what's going on. So with Creatrix, we don't have to go into that. It's more of a, I will get some evidence to see what's going on, so they've got that evidence later. But essentially what it does is, you know how every guru says to you, you've got everything inside you need to be happy. All right? We've all heard that a million times. It's like, great. How do I access it? Well, you need to sit on a mountain for 25 years and go on, or you need to do this, or you try this, or try that, try that. So what Creatrix does is it taps directly into that inner wisdom, and it basically works from the inside and ripples out. Whereas everything else, even things that, work with the conscious and unconscious, they do it, but it's not enough. It's like they get here, but then it just doesn't quite stick. They're on the right path. Everything's on the right path. They're just missing these tiny little pieces, which is what Maz filled in. She filled in the gaps. So when we're trying to do these other processes, it's like they're coming from the outside. We've got Glad wrap over our mouth and we're trying to eat a sandwich, trying to force it in. This is why when you do, mirror work or affirmations, one day you can say, you're amazing. And, your little, everything's lined up and you go, yeah, you are. That's right. You can do this. Yeah, I've got this. And then the next day you do it, you're amazing. It's like, no, you're not.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, hang on a minute. Yesterday you said I was. Yeah, well, today you're not. All right. And then you've got this internal battle. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
This is what happens. And it's like, well, why? Why does that happen? It's just because what you're using is not compatible. It's like you're trying to put a Samsung app onto an iPhone. They don't talk to each other in the way that they're meant to. And Creatrix talks properly to how we're designed. It's just so compatible. It doesn't actually even work on men. That's why I only work with women. Because it's so specifically designed.
As you were describing kind of the process, you were using metaphors that are like visual, yet I would not know what the process still is with Creatrix. I still don't know what steps I would basically take. You said that it would be kind of like not with affirmation, not with mirror work, because that doesn't work, because it's from an external source, which I 100% agree with you. I think I tried affirmations at some point and I felt so ridiculous. It felt so wrong that I stopped immediately and I tried mirror work and it felt so awkward. Like, I believe that it can work for certain women and I see
Yes,
evidence
absolutely.
of that.
Yes.
It can work for certain types of women or certain situations or when women are in certain stages of their lives. I believe it can work, but
yes.
it may not work for all problems that we face, right? So affirmations, especially when they are using the wrong type of language that is not innate to the woman, meaning she has not created the affirmations herself, but she just downloaded it from some cool website and now she's doing that because some guru or coach had prepared that type of freebie. Now download my freebie. Oh, that's convenient. No work do I need to put in to create my own affirmations. As someone who is a writer, who is very much into language, communication, and linguistics, I think that's totally wrong. Like, it has to come from you. The words that you produce, they have to come from you. And only then, I believe, they will create the type of fast transformation that you are looking for. And it might work. And here's the danger with affirmations. And I will say something that many people will hate me for, but I don't care. We need to tell the truth now. If the affirmations are coming from somebody else, this woman may have the best intentions. She wants to help you. She loves you. She wants to see you improve. But the problem is here. The moment she creates the affirmations from her language, her brain, and you said that we are quite unique in the ways how we process and think. as women. Like the biology is all the same, right? But we are very unique in how we perceive things. So if those affirmations come from a different brain, it is like you try to, like your liver failed or your heart failed, and now you need a new heart. In medical terms, it is very rare that your body will accept a different heart from a different body. And this is the same thing. Like if you use words from a different person, words are like spells, if I go into the woo-woo space, right? If you use words from a different person, a different brain, it will not affect you in the same way that you intend to be. And you might even take on the negative and false beliefs that the person still had during creating those affirmations. You don't know what type of state the woman was in when she created those affirmations. She might have been the most amazing woman with her most amazing intentions, but she might not have been in the same energy state that you need to create the change. And I don't know if that's
That's right.
understandable or not,
It
but I
is.
think
It's
that's
absolutely,
crucial.
yeah. Yes, absolutely. And this goes back to what I was saying before. One soul can't heal another soul. Even if I fully understand, and I've walked a very similar, I don't know your epigenetical journey as well. So I don't, just because it worked for me doesn't mean it's going to work for you, which is essentially what you're saying here, because we are unique in our makeup, in our full design. So with Creatrix, basically what you do is your eyes are closed, and I will guide you through a story that is full of metaphors, that is speaking to the female unconscious. It's not hypnosis though, because I've got to actually, your unconscious mind processes really, really fast. If you go and put your hand on something hot, you don't wait for this brain to go, oh, that's hot and my skin is burning, I better move it. You know, it happens like that, even faster than that. You react. And so your unconscious mind processes really fast. So I've actually got to take you through at quite a fast pace. Your eyes are closed because I don't want you getting distracted by, something walking past, okay? Because I need you to focus. But it's getting the conscious and the unconscious mind, they're like that. This one's going this way, this one's going this way. Depending on the day, depends on which one wins, okay? So as I'm taking you on a journey, I'm taking you where you need to be so that these two end up facing the same way. I'm getting you into a space that taps into that inner wisdom so that it's coming from in here, not up here. It's not something that you read in a book somewhere or somebody told you something. It's accessing in here. So everything that you get, the learnings, we call them learnings, everything is coming from your highest good. So it's not me telling you what to think or what to say based on my beliefs or my journey or how I've had my day. I've got no input in that. So you are only ever going to get what's for your highest good, because I'm helping you to tap into that so that you can get the learnings that you need, that resets all of the thoughts, the feelings, behaviors, everything, the program, the automatic response that you normally would go down if you got triggered in that moment. So it's doing everything at once. It's resetting everything at once. So you don't then have to come out, and with other processes, you still have to say your affirmations, or you still have to have some sort of process or trick or something that you do later to sort of remind you. You don't need that with Creatrix, because it's all happening all at once, all at the same time. Because if you've ever done any energy work, where you're taking something out, but you've also got to, I've gone the wrong way, you're taking it out, but you've got to put something in as well, because nature can't have a vacuum. All right, there's can't be this empty space. So if you're not putting something in there that aligns with her, not with the facilitator, with the client, then it's not gonna stick. So this is what you were saying before. It's got to, the heart has to be accepted by the body. Whatever is coming in has to be accepted by the conscious and the unconscious. Your unconscious is not going to take in anything that it feels is not safe for you, because one of its jobs is to keep you safe. So because I've got her in a state where she's accessing that inner wisdom, she's getting her own learnings, which means it can only be for her highest good, which means everything clicks into place, everything sets, boom, off you go. And it's such a fast process as well, because it is so compatible with the female design. And that's basically it. It's like, have you ever had an epiphany where it's just like, oh, now I get it, all makes sense, and everything sort of turns around on a dime? Creatrix forces you to have an epiphany and not have to wait 40 years to have your epiphany. We do it in like 20 minutes.
And I love that.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I believe in that too, because I've seen that myself through all the coaching, most of all in voice training, for example, that you don't have to work for 10 years on your voice to have like an immediate shift of a problem that you have experienced maybe for 10 years, right? So it feels like it is ingrained, it is part of you, like a limb, like your leg, and you cannot get rid of it unless you have an operation and you cut it off, like
Yeah.
certain types of transformations, especially when you do energy work and all that stuff, you're going into that direction and you tap into the core of your being, like the transformation speed can be incredibly fast, right? And I see that also with other coaches who do manifestation work, like Mandy Morris. I love her work, like what she's doing in there. What I believe would speed up even the preparation of the body and soul is to be a curious human being, being a curious woman, because that's also something that I notice in many women that shut themselves off or down from ever receiving inspiration to become a better self, to actually unlock the door, if you will, to make that type of transformation. And transformation, in my definition, or how I understand it, is always fast. Growth is something that is rather slow and has like it's step by step, right? But transformation is something very fast. And so what can expedite that type of transformation, unlock the possibility of transformation, is curiosity. And what I mean by that is to be curious about the universe within yourself, but also outside of yourself. So we only know what's possible when we actually see it, right? We can only imagine things that we have seen before. So if I know that someone, for example, is able to earn 100 million in 5 minutes, every 5 minutes, because they have a system laid out, marketing is on top notch, if I know that, then I can start dreaming. Then I can start creating different types of goals. Like 4 years ago, I didn't even know that existed. I thought like my dad was the highest earning person on this planet, right? But when you actually are curious and when you actually go out into the world and you ask the right questions, what else is possible? That can't be it. And that's the beautiful thing. If we believe in it, that the universe is endless and it expands, if we believe in that, then also our universe is endless and it expands if we let it expand, if we remain curious, right? And if we ask ourselves, there is more. How can I find it? How can I let go of all the things that I think are internalized, are part of me, the pain points that I experience, the obstacles that I experience, whether it is in a private life or in a business life? How can I let them sit for a while here in that corner, and how can I be curious about something new, something elevated, something better maybe for my life, and allow myself to actually dream about it?
One of the things that stopped me for a long time was feeling guilty about wanting more. Because you see, there are so many people who have got it worse. And I never wanted to, because this was another belief that I had. It's like, well, I should be grateful for what I have. Other people have got it worse. For me to be successful, you hear all these stories about people who were, they reached rock bottom and they were destitute in the gutter, and then they climbed all the way back up. And it's like, I admire that so much. I don't want to have to go to the deepest, darkest depths before I can be successful, though. So does that mean that I just have to be happy, because I wasn't happy with what I've got? And that put a cap on how much I allowed myself to dream and how much I even allowed myself to try different things, because it was like, well, you should be grateful for what you have, and don't ever ask for more, because that's just being greedy. And being able to go, well, you know what? Actually, I'm not happy doing that. So that was the first thing I had to sort of overcome, was that it's okay that I want more. I still had all the things that I had to go through to get there, but just even changing that one little thought, that it is actually okay that I want more, because there are people who do have more as well, and they seem very happy and they are okay with it. So it's like what you were saying, we need to see that role model, we need to see the possibility for us to then be able to go, yeah, all right, I can have that too. And then put yourself first to be able to go after those things. And what you were saying before about, having children, I think if you're able to sort yourself out internally before you have the children, yes, you might still get some things going on where you get triggered by them. But then it's like, once I had children, I kept going down the pecking order. And because your children are more important, and then the dog's more important, and then the cat's more important. It's like, I'm way down here. There was a time where I felt guilty going and buying a coffee for myself. It's like, oh, well, what if the kids need something? It's like, it's a cup of coffee, Helen. You need to calm down. But that was the thing. And so it's that, I guess, and this is where everyone's going to be different. From my perspective, sort yourself out. And then when you are in that place of amazingness, you're going to be able to show up better for your kids, your partner, your boss, your friends, your family, whoever it is in your life. Yes, there may still be other things, but don't put off prioritizing yourself before you have children, because that can sometimes be that double-edged sword where then you never do it. Do you know what I mean? And then you've got this whole ripple effect going on with the kids, in that, they're watching you. My husband came home one day when my daughter was really, she must have been maybe 2, and we bought her this little gardening set, and it had one of those plastic, the pot plant like this, and it had the saucer that goes underneath it, and she'd gotten the saucer and put it on top of it, and she's drinking like a coffee, and he's going, oh yeah, so I see what you two get up to during the day. And it's like, seriously, I don't even know where she's seen that, because they're so perceptive and they just pick stuff up, and they don't care what you say, they care what you do, and they watch what you do and they mimic what you do. And not that particular instance, but more of my own self-doubt and stuff, and hiding away. That sort of got me thinking, well, if she's copying that, what else is she going to copy in me? That I don't want to pass all of that on to my daughter. I don't want her growing up, hiding and have no confidence and all of that sort of stuff. So there's 2 sides of the coin. You can do it before, you can do it after. But I guess what I'm trying to say here is just prioritize yourself. When you do that, you show up better for everyone. It's not a selfish thing to do. It's the most unselfish thing that you can do, because having that negative, toxic energy is so much more damaging than putting aside some time for you to have the positive energy, to be the role model that you want to be. That's going to have such a better lasting impact. That's what we actually want as women. We want to nurture, we want everyone to be happy, we want to look after people, because that is part of our design as well. Otherwise the human race would have died out long ago if we didn't have that deep caring and wanting to help people. So you can really make your impact bigger and more positive when you do put yourself first and you look after your own internals and what's going on for you. Then you become that person who people look up to, who aspire to be, who then allows them, it gives them permission. If she can do it, then I can do it, and allows people to have those dreams as well.
Yeah, so you said two things that I love particularly, to prioritize the self-care, obviously, and it is easier said than done. I know that a lot of women
Yes.
will think now, "Ooh, it's easy for you to say. You are through that now. You may have mastered it, even though you cannot really master it yet. Like
but
that's
but
like the
Ella,
growth ladder."
yeah, everything though comes down to a decision. And if you look back at everything you've ever done in your life, there was a decision made.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the thing. Yes, it can look, it's easy for you to say you did this, you did that. But I had to make a decision to
Mm-hmm.
prioritize myself. And that decision was made when I could see what was happening. And it's like, okay, if I don't do this, I'm going to be divorce number 2. There's 3 little kids who now got a broken family, and that is not what I want. If I do this, maybe that won't happen. I didn't know what was over here. I didn't know what that possibility was. I just knew that I did not want that. And the thing is, though, when you make a decision, there's something powerful that happens and things start to fall into place because you've just gone, this is it. And you've drawn that line in the sand. Whereas when you're just so wishy-washy and over here and over there, the universe can't give you what you want because it doesn't know what you want, because you don't know what you want. So yes, it can be hard to make that decision, but you're the only one who can make that decision. And it was, and even before Creatrix, when I had my first marriage, and it was like, okay, well, I was 32 when I got divorced. And it was like, right, I can stay in this marriage. He doesn't want kids. I do want kids. I'm 32. God willing, I've got another 50 years to live. All right. How do I want to spend those 50 years? How do I want to spend the next 5 years, 5 months, turning into someone who will be just angry and bitter and resentful? Is that how I want to see my life or not? And we had moved to a place where I didn't know anyone. He was very outgoing. I think that was what sort of drew me to him. He was so outgoing. It's what I wanted to be like because I was still very shy and reserved. All our friends were his friends. So I didn't really know anyone. I'd be on my own. I'm 32. I have to start again. Oh my God, I don't want to, what does that even look like? How am I going to meet someone? I don't want to go dating and all this stuff. And there was this big panic. And it even went to, oh, what's everyone I went to high school going to think of me? Oh, she can't even, people I haven't spoken to for however long that was since I was in high school. But they're coming into my mind. What are they going to think? Oh, she can't even keep a marriage together. What a loser. So all of this irrational stuff, but it was very real to me. And it was very, very real fears. So this is what I'm weighing up. But the thought of having to spend the next 50 years miserable was enough for me to go, you know what? Yes, that's scary, but that I can't even look at. So I had to make a decision, and it was the hardest decision I had ever made in my life up until that point. So I get that deciding is hard, but it has to happen. And once it happens, that's when things fall into place. I ended up meeting my husband not that much longer afterwards. And I said to him, look, I've been like separated for 6 months. I'm not looking for anything. But I always knew what I wanted. I wanted someone who wanted to have, to go to work and have the little woman at home. I wanted to be the little woman at home looking after the kids, because that's, I'm going to go through all that pain and get fat. I want to be there for the good stuff as well. So I knew what I wanted, and it all happened really, really quickly. We were married and had our first child. It was like within, when was she even born? I don't know. Time's really weird. But it all happened really, really fast because I made that decision. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I think that you making a decision is like the first step, I think. And
Absolutely.
maybe I can draw a picture about this or use a metaphor. Like if we imagine dominoes, stones standing one after another, like the first domino is like the first and major and biggest and hardest decision. After that, you have to repeat making that decision, especially if you feel it feels hard to actually realize that what you try to accomplish. You have to make that decision every day. And so it is easier to actually move those dominoes and make them fall. And like, it might not be the first decision that you make that you are able to change something or transform something. But if you keep making that decision each and every day, like you commit yourself, like you claim to commit yourself to the marriage, that like, through good and bad, like you have a bad day, still make that decision. Like, and then it will be easier to like make the dominoes fall. And before that, you were talking about prioritizing self-care as a mom. I 100% are with you, because in my imagination, a mother is a leader. Like, and not first of all for the kids. She has to be able to lead herself. And I understood that very late after I had my kids, obviously. They triggered that very intensely. Like, I have to lead my thoughts. I have to know them. Like, if you don't know yourself, what are you doing? Like that's your first job when in your teens, right? If you didn't do that, do it now, right? You have to know your thoughts. You have to know your beliefs. Why do you believe that? Whatever you believe, right? What is stopping you? What are your main pain points in life? What makes your heart ache from whatever you see or experience? What are what are the things that inspire you? What are the things that motivate you? Most people don't even think about that. They think, oh, inspiration is something very fleeting. I cannot influence that. Yes, you can. Like, we established that the universe is endless, so there are endless possibilities. So you can inspire, you can motivate yourself, you can spark that, you can even trigger that, right? You can influence everything. Like, how do you intend to influence your clients or the outer space if you cannot even influence your own body, your own mind, your own emotions, the even your organs? If you cannot influence that, you will not have a lot of impact outside. And we talked in the beginning about that. It has to come from the inside of you. Everything, the whole energy, the whole intention and impact comes from you, by knowing yourself, by managing yourself well, by being the leader that you want to be outside. You first have to become a leader inside, right? You have to lead your lifestyle, your diet properly. Like, if you allow yourself to make mistakes, don't be mad at other people who make mistakes. Like, you cannot blame them for making mistakes, because you are doing mistakes too. Like, you have to have compassion at the same time, right? And you talked about wanting something, but at the same time being grateful. And I hear that talk, like that's like the battlefield right now, especially in the coaching space and the personal growth space. Like, one side is battling for growth and do more and a hustle culture and all that. There is more and you can achieve more and go for it, and on the other hand, be grateful and you're beautiful and whatever you have right now is enough and you don't need more and you don't need all these material things. Like, both can exist at the same time. Like, again, if you
That's right.
limit yourself, Yeah, if you limit yourself.
Because they're the two extremes, aren't they? So that,
Yeah.
be grateful and all of that. That's really, really feminine. And get out there and take action and hustle. That's really, really masculine. And so if you can get that balance between the two, because we're so intuitive, and when we allow ourselves, we can be led. We can have the goal. You got to know where you're going, but you don't have to have a rigid step laid out. This is what it's going to happen, and like this, because then you miss everything that's out here. So it's having that beautiful balance of the feminine compassion and understanding and connection with the masculine action taking. And it can exist when you fix up all the stuff that's telling you why it can't.
And I
And
even
that's where
believe
I
that,
basically come in.
yes, and I even believe that, and I don't know if it's a woman thing or if it's just a general thing. At least that's what I found from observation of myself, clients, and other people. As soon as you find the spot to be grateful for which you really are grateful, not those affirmations, but things you really are grateful, you actually take the time and think about it. Are you really grateful for your kids? If not, there must be something that you are grateful when it comes to your kids, right? Maybe that they take out the trash, maybe that they hug you, maybe that they tell you that they love you, right? It can be incremental, tiny things, but you will always find something that you are grateful for, no matter how small it is, because an atom is such a tremendous element of this universe. You can be grateful for that, right? Because it
Absolutely.
influences so much. And as soon as you find that spot of gratitude, again, a domino ripple effect takes place, right? That from that place of gratitude, the universe notices, oh, okay, she can handle herself. All right, she got it figured out. Let's give her more. Like, I don't believe you get what you want unless you find that place of gratitude. Whatever it is, it can be a small thing. But as soon as you open up your consciousness towards the things that you are grateful for, like, it eliminates a problem from your life, so to speak. You make space, as you mentioned in the beginning, for something new, for something better, because you have been focused on something positive. Being grateful means you focus on something that you love, that you find positive, inspiring, motivating, beautiful, helpful, that makes you feel successful or beautiful or whatever it is. You actually make space. So this is where I believe the feminine and the masculine can both live in the same space. Find the gratitude first, and then the growth and the transformation will actually have space to take place.
I heard something recently. I can't remember where it was though. For people who find it hard to do the gratitude, it was instead of trying to find something you're grateful for, find something that you appreciate, because it's also the feeling that you have. It's not just the empty words. And if you find it hard to attach the feeling to the words with the gratitude, you can always appreciate something, and it's like a softer way to come into that same sort of space.
Definitely. Yeah. The feeling is like, many people focus on mindset so much and ignore the feelings, actually. I think, like, if you, from a biological perspective, if you look at, and maybe that's wrong, I don't know, but that's how it actually works. The brain, the head itself, is very small compared to the body. Like, the emotions take place in the body. Like, yes, you register them in the brain and the brain takes care of it and all that stuff, but where it takes place, the playground of emotions, is your whole body. So if you only focus on your mind, like, you ignore the biggest part of your existence. So you have to attach feelings, you have to take care more of your emotions and feelings that you have, more than you do with your thoughts. And the brain is like an infant compared to the heart, so to speak, compared to the emotions, because when you think back to the baby that grows in the womb, they actually develop the emotional part first before the brain actually develops, because the heart has its own, it's like a little brain itself. Just like in the stomach, we have a type of a brain, if you will, and also the spine has also a different type of brain, if you will, that takes care of certain things. So when we are actually created, we are created as emotional beings, as beings who can feel. So actually listening to your body more is smarter. It is like the guide, the compass that has been given to you from birth, from the beginning of your existence, even prior to your birth, right? And the brain actually develops much later when the baby grows in the womb. So this means the heart needs to guide the brain, not the other way around. The brain is an infant. You need to tell him what to do, what it needs to think, what it needs to believe, and where we are going. And where you are going actually can only come from your core. And the core is your heart, your inside, your identity, your feelings, your emotions.
And even our actual brain, as you know, we've got the emotional one, and then the
Yeah,
logical thinking brain is the newest brain as
yeah.
well. We give too much credit to this part, I think.
Yeah. We focus too much on it, and we operate from that space way too much. And it's funny. You mentioned that in the beginning, that the most of the science that has been developed was by men, and men focus a lot on the frontal lobe, right? That's their operating. Except for sometimes they go into the emotional state quite intensely, but most of the time they do operate in their logical brain, and that's beautiful
Yeah.
because we need that. But at the same
Oh,
time,
absolutely. It's done some good stuff. It absolutely has.
and we need to find that balance between the
Mm.
both of it, right? We need to find a way to elaborate scientific ways to find out how the female brain works, to incorporate that into the society more authentically, and not say this is better than that. Like, we're living in on this planet together. Like, let's find a way to actually live together in a way that
Well, there's,
does not end up in population decline like we are facing in the next 20 years.
yeah. And there's still even, it's only very recently that they've even started testing on females. You know, a lot of the time, the tests that they do would be male mice who have been castrated at birth. So they're taking away the things that make us, you know, hormones and emotions, they're kind of the same thing, you know, chicken and egg sort of stuff. But they're not even testing on females to know how the hormones affect you know, how they interact with the different drugs and all of that sort of thing. So there is definitely a long way to go with that. And I think too, a lot of women, we're trying to operate from that logical step process sort of thing, which you do need to have steps, but we've come away from trusting our gut. We've come away from trusting our intuition. And a lot of that is because of these fears and stuff that whether they're playing out in your life today or whether they've been inherited through epigenetics, there is definitely a lot of fears around safety and not trusting and indecision. And so what Creatrix does is it brings you back to you, who you are as your core, gets everything to line up so that then you come back to trusting your gut. Come back to trusting your decisions. It's not a big deal then if you make a mistake. You actually don't care what other people think. It's not just something that you say, you know, well, I don't really care what they think. And meanwhile, you are devastated, you know, because what you say and what you feel is not lining up. So Creatrix just lines everything up beautifully so that you can just be. And when you be, you just do. And when you do, then you have. And that's in my opinion, the female way to operate.
And you mentioned a lot about epigenetics.
Mm-hmm.
Now, can you tell the audience what it is and why it is important for your type of work?
Mm-hmm. Okay. So epigenetics is what science is now proving we're inheriting more than just whether we've got, crazy curly hair and brown eyes. We're also inheriting past stresses and traumas in our DNA. So they've done a lot of testing on animals, and there's stuff like you may have heard about where they introduce mice to a certain flour, and it's got when they taste it, it does something bad to them anyway, whether it's a zap or a reaction or something like that. The mice learn not to go near that particular flour. But what was really interesting was that generations on, even though the future mice have never been introduced to that flower, they've never seen it, they still know not to go near it. So this is what they're thinking, well, how does that happen? Because it's our DNA is the same. It's the tags and the way they express is what's different. And what was happening was that when the mice were being stressed by this thing, it was switching on a tag in their DNA. And because it was doing that on DNA that was a sperm cell, that was then being passed on to the next generation. So this is why you can have people who, like me, have never had anything happen in their life, yet still have these fears, all right, that you just can't explain. And this is also why you might see in families cycles in generations. And this is what Maz found as well. So she was the third generation to have sexual abuse. She was also the third generation to have guns pointed at the women's heads. And then her children were the fourth generation. And because she became aware of this, she did everything she could. You can imagine, as a mum, we will be fierce and we will protect our children at all costs. So she was adamant that it was not going to happen to her children, not on her watch, but it did. And this is the thing, it's like it's predestined that is the cycle in that particular bloodline. This is what happens. Whether it's that, whether it's, in relationships, whether it's in money, it doesn't matter the circumstance. It's the fact that there are these repeating patterns. And that's what epigenetics is saying, that it's being passed through in your DNA. So one of the reasons why she got so passionate about finding an answer was to break her own family's cycles. Now, why that is so important with Creatrix is because the female and the uterus is the incubator. So everything happens in the uterus. They're trying to make a test tube baby, but it has to be in the uterus because that's the oven. That's where it all gets done, right? So you've got the 50% DNA from the sperm, the 50% DNA from the egg. But in addition to that, you've got what's going on in the incubator. You've got a direct feed tube going into the fetus. So we know this, when you get pregnant, before you get pregnant, if you're thinking of getting pregnant, the minute you find out you're pregnant, stop smoking, stop drinking, exercise, eat healthy, do all of these things, because we know it has a direct effect on this baby that we're growing. And how we feel, whether we're stressed, we're meant to we're meant to get pregnant and lay back and have someone fan us and feed us peeled grapes. All right, we're not meant to be also running around doing all these things and being all stressed, because that's not a good environment for this developing baby. So that is all going on, and it's adding to the mix. So the female is the one that passes the epigenetics on. Does that make sense? Because it's all happening within there.
Absolutely.
So we needed something, or Maz needed something that also addressed that broke the cycle. So it's one thing to change a belief in your life today, that's great. It doesn't break the cycle though, because it's just for you. And how you know that it's not cycle breaking is because it comes back. It's like you've cut the branch off the tree, but the branch has just grown back. So Creatrix is essentially pulling the whole thing out, roots and all. So then it can't come back. This is why, I can be in the same situation and not get triggered. My big thing that was so in my face was being angry all the time, angry all the time. And I would get angry like that over the stupidest little things. And then, my husband would say, well, why are you so angry? And I didn't know half the time, because it's all that hormones, it's being triggered, everything's just happening, and you're down that rabbit hole before you even know what's going on. So he would say to me, well, what is wrong? And I'd go, well, you left a sock on the floor. And he would be like, it's a sock. And it's like, yeah, well, and I felt like I had to justify why I felt the way I felt when I didn't even know why I felt the way I felt. Okay, it was just this thing. So, but then it wasn't enough to be angry. Then I would pick on things that he did or didn't do. I would find more things to be angry about. And it would go on for days and days and days and days. And I was really not fun to be around. And I used to be fun though, Ella, and this is what I missed the most. That's why I think I went searching. It's like, where did Helen go? I felt lost. I completely lost myself. And so, of course, I still get angry because I'm still alive and I'm a woman and I've got hormones and I still have 3 children and a husband. So, of course, I still get angry, but it's relative to the situation. And it doesn't hang around. It'll be, I can feel angry and go from 0 to 10 in like that, but then I'll come back down just as fast, because we're meant to feel emotion, right? That's how we know we're off track. That's how we know we have to change something. You're meant to feel the emotion, go, all right, this is what's going on. I need to do this or that or something. Something has to change. And then you let it go and you move on with life. That's healthy, normal reactions in emotions. Unhealthy is what I was doing. Get angry, hold on to it, try and find something else to keep it, fester, and then it turns into resentment and bitterness and hate and rage and all of these sort of things. It's like, because you hang on to it, and then you not only hang on to it, you carry it with you, and then we bring it into a future event that, we're having an argument down here and we talk about something that happened 20 years ago because we're still carrying it with you. That is unhealthy. So Creatrix resolves the pattern, and it changes the pattern. It changes that automatic response so that you don't go off down this track. You will still have a reaction if the situation warrants it, but it's a normal, healthy thing. And it allows you also to then put boundaries in place. If I used to get really cranky because the kids never did anything, well, did you ask them to do it, Helen? Or were they meant to read your mind? So because of all of my insecurities, I didn't feel I could ask them. So then, you've got to make changes in your external world as well. You've got to be realistic, but it's easier for you to make those changes. It's easier for me to say now to my kids, well, you know what? I'm helping you to become a better person. You're going to thank me for this one day. So off you go take the rubbish out. Whereas it's not a battle anymore. It's it just makes life easier. There's more flow. And when my energy changed, the whole energy of the house changed as well, because I wasn't coming in like this and they weren't meeting me with the same stuff. So everything just calmed down, and it's completely I hate to think what it would have been like if I didn't do something about it.
Yeah.
And it had to be me that did something, not them. I was the one with the problem. I was the one
You said
reacting.
something very interesting that triggered a thought that might turn out even mean, where I get a lot of hate comments for that. I don't know. But I will just say it. You said that when we are angry, when we have these negative emotions, especially when maybe even epigenetics is at play in that level, we tend to hold on to that emotion. And that made me think of, we are naturally nurturers, right? We are born to nurture. So maybe that's one of the reasons why we also tend to hold on to pretty much everything. I mean, if something good happens, we don't regret it. We don't lie in the bed in the evening and think, oh my God, I was so angry today. Why did I do this? And why did I hold on to this for days and days? We don't think about that, right? If it's good, it's good. We enjoy it, right? But if it's negative and we hold on to it, maybe we have to remind ourselves that we are natural nurturers, right? And if we hold on to the emotion, maybe we have been focused on the wrong thing, because we want to nurture whatever it is. We always look for, what can we nurture today? What can I nurture now? So if it's a negative emotion, you will naturally gravitate towards nurturing that emotion and holding on to it. But if you refocus yourself on something else, how you can nurture something positive, maybe you will find a way to actually not hold on to that negative emotion, but actually take your attention towards something that is positive, just like you did, right? You said, oh, you will thank me one day for actually helping you become a better human being, right? You twisted that thing to make it positive. And I think that's also a skill or a thing that we naturally have. We are able to twist things into a different direction because our brain is like that. We think about everything at the same time. So you are able to turn it around, and you are able to 10x it. That's also an ability that we have. We don't need to wait
It
for 10
is.
years, right? That's maybe
No,
the
we
main
don't.
thing, right? We can
Yeah.
multiply instantly if we want to, if we tap into that ability.
But I think that's where a lot of women have trouble. There are some women who can do that very easily. I wasn't one of those women. So it's like, the majority of women want to do that. And I absolutely wanted to do that. I could see it. I could see it coming. It's like watching an accident. I knew what was coming and I knew what was happening, but I couldn't do anything about it. And that was what frustrated me the most. And so doing all these other things where it's like you try and stop yourself in the moment and you count to 10, or you try and do whatever you need to do, that was the stuff that I struggled with, because it in theory I knew what to do, but in practical, because when you are so emotional, all the lights in the front of your brain, they turn off. And they've done Dr. Arman, you've probably heard of him. He's done tens of thousands of brain scans, and they put people in stressful situations and they see it. Lights go out here, they light up all in the back here. And that's why people say, I'm so angry right now, I can't even think straight, because they can't. Their brain has just shut down. And so in those moments when we are so highly emotional, it takes a lot to be able to stop and remember, well, what was that thing that I'm supposed to do in this moment to calm me down, and try and spin the perspective and see the positive. It's like, I can't even see, let alone see a positive. And that was what I struggled with, having to do that. So I basically found a shortcut, and Creatrix is the shortcut that reset everything back to how it was. So when something happens now, I might be emotional, but then it comes back down. So essentially what that means, it goes whoop, then it goes whoop, and these come back on. And then I can go, okay, well, this is what needs to happen. But until that happens, it's very, very hard to, in that emotional state, to think, okay, well, what was that thing that my coach told me to do that I have to do in this moment? because it's not there. And anyone who's got kids will really get that. And anyone who sees themselves in the patterns as well, in whatever aspect of their life, if they're able to sort of sit back and reflect and see those patterns, they will see that, yeah, I knew that was going to happen. I could see that happening, but I couldn't actually do anything about it, because it's like that is the program that just has to play out. And I try to stop it, but we're trying to stop it consciously when everything is still like this. You've got to get both of them facing the same way in the rowboat. And that way, there isn't the struggle. You're not going in circles. You're not continually doing this. You're just going along. You'll have your ups and downs, and you'll go sideways, but they're still facing the same way, which means it's just a little bump on the road. Then you can get back on easily, rather than having this full-blown cycle that turns out poorly. Because at the end of the day, when you don't feel good, that is the energy you're sending out, and it just affects everyone in your circle. And then, you know, they get affected by you, and then they go on and affect the people that they're with. You know, I was very conscious about my kids going to school, because mummy was all cranky because you asked me for a piece of chewy on the way to school, and I got all cranky at that. And so now you feel bad, so now you're going to school feeling bad, and all that's just rippling out. You know, there's the negative impact can just go so fast, but then the positive can as well. So when we prioritize ourselves, because that, at the end of the day, that is all we have control over. You know, you're fooling yourself if you think you've got anything, if you're controlling anything other than how you feel and how you react and what you do and your behaviors. You know, that is the only thing you can control. So do that. Do what you can for you, because then that ripple effect is just going to be beautiful and amazing, and it's going to create the resilience in our children that we want, and then they will become functioning members of society who actually contribute in a positive way as well. You know, it's causing that bigger impact. And I guess that's what drew me to this as well, because it's all well and good to do this, but you know, if you can make that impact bigger. And that's why I love working with coaches, because if I can help them be the best version of them, they then can help their clients, because I can't help their clients. You know, that only they can help their clients. So I help her, she helps them. They get what they want, ripples down to their family, ripples into their friends, ripples into their work, their relationships, all out. So you've got all these beautiful ripples happening all over the place. And that's what excites me most about this.
It looks like we are on the same mission, because that was my same thought. What if I use my skills to actually help someone who can create that type of ripple effect to help other people heal and transform and get humanity into a bigger, better level than we are now? The same thought, like create a tree, like I'm the trunk, and if I help this amount of coaches, then they will spread out their skills and knowledge and amazingness into the world. And you said something very, very important, that emotions actually are the most important thing that you can take care of in your life, that you can actually spend time on, a lot of time, because since emotions are a bodily experience, are played out in the body, I think to interrupt an emotion that skyrockets your mood and everything into the moon, and you think you cannot do anything about it, it's correct. You cannot think yourself through that situation. Just like you said, the frontal lobe is just shut off, like you cannot do it. But what you can do, and I found that very effective, not only for myself but also for clients who are struggling with different types of things, to use a natural system that is already incorporated in the body. It is already given to you, right? Like you will not survive without that system, which is breathing, right? The most natural thing that you ignore most of the time in the day because it's subconscious. But the moment you can make it actually conscious and you use that natural system that is already built in software, if you will, if you use that in the moment of your highest negative emotions that you want to get out of, start breathing consciously. And voila, you interrupt that bodily experience with a bodily system that was made for you to use, right? To actually, it's like an antivirus, if you will, system software, right? You can use that system to actually get rid or calm down yourself or calm your emotional brain part to actually allow the frontal lobe to turn on again. And then you can think your way through it. But breathing is one of the most effective things that you can use to actually work on your emotional intelligence and manage all your emotions.
Regardless of where you are in your life, you can heal whatever it is going on for you. You may still get triggered differently down the track, but you may not as well, because these deep hurts and sadness and the grief and all of the deep things for women have been resolved. So therefore you're not triggered in the same way. Obviously, if somebody does something and it hurts you, you can feel hurt, but it's not the hurt that you then carry with you. This is the big difference, I think. It's like you're still going to feel emotion, but you're not going to carry it. You know, we try and walk into our future. We try and make decisions and do all of this stuff and look to our future, but we're actually facing backwards and we're dragging this big pile of rubbish with us. And it's like we're looking there, but we're holding on to this. So Creatrix is just sort of cut that off, because it belonged back there. You can't change what happened. However, you can change your perspective and how you feel about it, and whether you remember that as just something that happened, or whether you remember it full of emotion and you still get triggered by it. So that's the difference. It's like Creatrix cuts the ties to that so that it is simply just an event. You don't have to like the event. You don't have to like the person. You definitely do not have to condone any actions. However, you can't change what happened. You can only change how you see it, how you feel about it, and what you do moving forward, whether you carry it with you. So this is what happens with women within relationships. You know, they may have been hurt before in this one, so they go into this next one carrying the hurt with them and expecting to be hurt. And it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. They're going to keep doing that with the cycle. You know, you're going to keep attracting the man who is going to do those things to you. Even if he's the nicest man in the world, you are running this program where even if he doesn't do something, you will do something. Does that make sense? So it's like, if you can, it doesn't matter where you are in your life, you can actually change your future by sorting out what is going on, the cyclic things that are keeping you stuck. Because when you don't get triggered by those things anymore, it opens up so many different possibilities. Instead of being, you know, it'll be like you might change jobs, but you still get bullied because you're the one coming along with the low self-esteem, who has that energy about you that this person over here sort of is attracted, because they have the need to do, they want the power. You look like someone who's powerless. So it doesn't matter where you go, you're taking it with you. So it's about stop taking it with you, and then your future will be completely different. And if you do have, you know, things that you can resolve, all your past hurts and traumas before you have kids, great. Your journey as a mum might be very different. You might still get triggered by something different, but that's okay, because instead of coming into it with all of this, you might just come into it with this. And even if you know, I guess it doesn't matter when you do it, but just do it for you. First and foremost, do it for you, because that that is all you can control, and it will change your destiny. It will change your future, because how you see things, somebody who believes they're not good enough will see the world in this way, and they will have this life. Somebody who believes they are good enough will see the world in this way, and it will be completely different. You know, I remember we were in Vietnam years and years ago, and my husband and I are quite different in our mindsets as well. And we were standing in the same street side by side, and he said to me, "Did you hear what that person just said?" And I went, "No." Because his focus is on, oh, you know, they don't like Westerners. And my focus was on, oh my God, this is such a beautiful place, and everything is so gorgeous, and the people are so wonderful. So that's what I saw. And he's right next to me, and he saw a completely different thing. So when you sort yourself out, everything in your future can be completely different, and it just opens up those possibilities, because you don't even know what you don't even know. But while you're staying limited in your set of beliefs, then you will never know what you don't know. And that's kind of sad. It because you could have so much more. There is so much more that you can have if you just allow yourself to be open and you prioritize your own happiness, because that ripple effect is, at the end of the day, what women, we love to help other people. We love to make other people feel good. And when we fill up our cup and the cup runneth over, then you can have that bigger impact the way that you want, the way that it feels good. But if you neglect yourself, then it turns into this whole, oh my God, I'm so tired and I'm exhausted and I'm drained, and they don't even appreciate me. And then you start to feel used. And then you start doing things because you have to, not because you want to, you know. And it's just a completely different energy for everyone, not just you. And you end up burning out, and then you can't help anyone. So yeah, wherever you are, prioritize you. You can have it all, but you've just got to make that decision that you want it all. You don't have to know how. If you want a shortcut, come to me. I'll give you Creatrix, and that's your shortcut. But you don't have to. You know, everyone's going to do it the way that they want to do it. Just be open to possibilities and be open to knowing that there is something that can change, but you've got to want it for you. That's all it comes down to.
Where can people actually find you to do that work?
They can find me on Facebook. Do you want me to send you? I don't even know what my Facebook handle is. I think it's Helen Prince, but I can send it to you, and I can send you my calendar link as well. If anyone wants to have a chat, I'm very happy to talk to anyone about it. You know, the more that we can help women, whether they're mums or not, or whether they want to be mums or whether they already are mums, you know, that's how we then influence the next generation, the boys and the girls. You know, I'm teaching my boys how to treat women. I'm teaching my boys what a confident woman looks like. And I'm teaching them how to behave and how to be around women and to have that respect and have respect for each other. But, you know, you can't do that if you don't have respect for yourself, or you let other people walk all over you, or you're too busy people pleasing, or too busy, you've gone too far into the nurturing where you are putting everyone else's needs above your own. That's not teaching them how to be or how to treat people. You know, I don't want my boys to see women as, you know, the one that cooks and cleans and does everything for you. You know, that's not okay. So but you've got to have that everything lined up in you. You've got to have that inner strength and that confidence. It's like you've got to know it. Knowing is different to believing. You know, you can believe you're good enough one day, but then you don't believe you're good enough the next day. But when you know it in every fiber of your body, which is what Creatrix does, you can't tell me that I'm not. It's just like if I tried to tell you that your name isn't Ella, you would go, well, no, sorry, you're wrong. It's that same thing because you know it. And that's what Creatrix does. It gives you the knowing in every fiber of your being, not just believing and hoping and wishing.
I can already see how many people and how many women you will influence and transform. And I cannot wait to see that happening, actually. And I'm so happy and glad that we did this here, that we had this conversation. And of course, I
Me
will be
too.
inviting you back to my podcast. We need to talk more about this, go deeper into it,
Absolutely.
cover all the other questions that I had.
Yeah. We'll have part 2 and part 3 and part 4. If you ever want to
Exactly.
have a coffee, well, I won't have a coffee because it's like 9:30 at night here, but I've really loved chatting with you. So even if it's not in an official capacity, just let me know.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for the invitation. I really appreciate it.